Report, a public affairs presentation of KTBW. The opinions expressed in this program does not necessarily reflect the views of the Trinity Broadcasting Network.
Good morning and welcome to today's Public Report. I'm your host, Latasha Raines. Traffic, commuting, and more traffic seems to be the biggest issue with our public here in Washington State. But what a better person to have here on the show to discuss these issues. Today, I am pleased to introduce to you the Washington State Department of Public Transportation's Regional Administrator, Lorena Eng.
Thank you.
Lorena, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome.
So please fill us in a little bit on what your role is at the Department of Transportation.
Well, as the regional administrator for the Washington State Department of Transportation, I'm responsible for everything from maintenance and operations to planning, design, and construction of all the state highways we have here in the Northwest region. Okay,
so what do you not do? Wow.
Well, I don't cause congestion, but, we do look at ways to solve congestion and to make the highway safer for our commuters and drivers.
Awesome. Well, of course, with all the talk of recession and lack of funding, it seems like we're seeing a lot of construction and reflector signs out there. What's going on with the projects?
Well, what's going on with the projects is we're spending money that the public has authorized us to in our latest gas tax increases. So we have mega projects going on. We have, of course, Alaskan Way viaduct replacement, where we are replacing the viaduct with a deep bore tunnel. We have the SR 520 bridge, where the bridge, is susceptible to seismic issues. So we're replacing the 520 bridge across Lake Washington. We also have projects on I-405 where we are adding lanes and making improvements to help drivers commute through the 405 corridor.
Wow, that's a lot. So you talked about the viaduct. I mean, I travel on the viaduct on a weekly basis. Tell us kind of what your guys' vision is for that and how that's going to affect people who use it on a regular basis.
Well, our vision is that we're going to build or dig a deep bore tunnel. So instead of being on this viaduct that, can through a major earthquake be considered unusable, we're going to create this new route for people, a safer route underneath the Seattle waterfront, and so then that will allow us to open up the Seattle waterfront for other uses other than having this big structure blocking views and such.
Okay, and of course the popular new toll on 520. Did you guys have anything to do with that?
Well, not me personally. I hope people understand that. But, it's a way of funding. Funding is an issue that, people in Eastern Washington don't want to pay for improvements in Western Washington. And so, because the cost of these improvements are so huge that we had a combination of state gas tax, federal funds, and then user fees as people who use the bridge pay for a portion of that.
Okay, so what do drivers have to look forward to in the next months as far as all these projects that you have going on?
Well, we'll see some of our projects finishing up in the next, throughout this next construction season. Right, near here in Federal Way, we have a project where we're building new ramps that instead of having these short weaving sections at the SR 18 I-5 interchange, we're building these direct ramps. And I think people commuting through I-5 in the south and see the ramps taking shape. So that'll help throughout that area. We have a similar project up in I-405 in Bellevue, where there's a tight weave between Northeast 8th and Bellevue and SR 520, and we're untangling that mess through there. So there's a lot of work going on, and people are going to see the results and see the benefits of these safety and congestion relief projects.
So, what's the time frame that you think we'll see these results? Because I know as a person that's commuting, it's frustrating, and you're like, why are they working on this right now? I have somewhere to go.
Yeah, and that's, but at the same time, people say, well, why don't you do something? And that's part of the, no pain, no gain type of thing. And so we try to schedule our major impacts at night if we can. and or during the weekend, and we make sure that we communicate so that all drivers can anticipate these closures through the media, through our variable message signs, through the radio and such, so that even though it is painful, if people are aware, it's more acceptable that they could reschedule their commutes to avoid bad impacts.
So do you guys usually strategize how many you do at one time? Because if you're, commuting from one place to another and you're in construction there and then you get to your destination, there's construction there, that can be frustrating for the everyday commuter.
Right. That's a big role that we have a group of people that look at all the construction work going in the area, and not just what the state is doing, what the locals are doing too, because they may be working on routes that we would deem, or commuters would deem as detours or ways to get around our construction. So we make sure that we schedule things as best we can, and try to avoid that, oh man, there's no way out of here. So
where, as far as it comes to like transportation issues, just as an everyday person, where can we find out more than just like the reader boards and the news, what's actually going on and how it affects our area that we're living in?
Well, we make a great big effort in keeping our website up to date and full of information that we get questions, and we make sure that our website is up to date and responds to those frequently asked questions. We also use social media. We have listservs so that if people in a particular commute area want to sign up to find out what all, say for instance, what all the traffic closures are going to be in Snohomish County, they could sign up for the Snohomish County listserv. And then we do other things like, now that there's other social media things like tweeting, and so during the snowstorm we use that as a tool to get real-time information out quickly. So I would advise people to look at our website and to get information from there, and then of course you could always call and find out our public information to find out what's going on.
So we're talking about construction here. What do you think is probably the most challenging project that you guys have, and especially with coordinating with just the commute and trying to streamline all of that?
Well, the most challenging are of course those that require closure of the highway. People don't like their route closed, and so just this last weekend we had to close 520 down because they're building huge lids and digging deep culverts, and it's just unavoidable to do. So again, like what I said, we try to communicate it, to schedule it so that there's least impacts. There's no Seahawk game or Mariners game or such that during the weekend that people need to get to. The other thing is, and the one that we're struggling that's upcoming, this summer, is that we're going to have to do a project that will be grinding the concrete pavement, which is loud. So how do you balance the noise that affect the people living along the corridor with, well, no, you can't shut down the lanes during the middle of the day because, so we're trying to balance that and trying to figure out a timing so that we inconvenience people as minimally as we can, but yet get the work done because people want the work done.
So do you guys have a plan for the grinding? I mean, I could imagine you can't do it during the day, and then it's like at night, people are going to be like, So what's your plan for that?
The plan is, and we're still trying to figure this out, is to maybe do it on a weekend and then be able to work later through the morning so that when traffic volumes are still light, because people are sleeping in on the weekend and such. But these are the types of things that we're trying to figure out what's the minimal impact for everybody involved.
So before we leave, I just wanted to know if there's like anything that you would want to share as far as the construction, everything's concerned, to kind of smooth out the worries of us people that are going, what are they doing? I just want to have a smooth road, make it happen right now.
Yeah, well, one is to be, check our website on your commute and the routes that you'll be traveling so that you'll be aware of what's going on. And two is, as you come across a work zone, you see those orange signs, pay attention to those orange signs and what they're saying. saying, slow down, there are people working. I mean, that's one of the benefits of our projects is they are putting people to work. Yeah. And so if people know before they go and slow down, be careful what's going on, it make it life a lot easier for everybody.
Excellent. I had another question. When you do get your responses in, like from your frequently asked questions or through the website, and people are possibly challenging like the validity of certain construction projects, like what are kind of the questions you get? Like, is this even worth it? Do we even need to be spending money on this? I'm interested to know what your thoughts were on that.
Well, one of the biggest challenges in Snohomish County, we're building a roundabout in Sultan, and this is near and dear to my heart right now because I just got a constituent. And I guess it would be, somebody referred to it as a love letter, but it's not quite a love letter, saying that why are you doing it, why you're wasting money. And then what we do is we point out the studies that we did, the accident history, what the benefits are going to be both for safety and for congestion through that area. And not everybody's going to be 100% for every project, but I think for the majority, they see the benefits, and sometimes we even get letters, hey, I didn't like this at first, but now I understand it, and wow, I'm glad you did it.
So speaking of that, what is the process to get like a major project approved? I know that I would want to know. I mean, is it just like 3 people around a table that get to just make a decision to tear up the streets, or what? What's the process in that?
Well, it's a big process. There's the planning, looking at where are the needs as far as safety, traffic congestion and such. And then, the governor convened what is called Connecting Washington, and it's a group of people from all different aspects of the economy, the contractors and such, local elected officials. And what they did was they came up with what are all the big needs in our state. And so then the big question is funding. And so where are you going to get the funding for these big needs? Because I think they came up with, like $50 billion worth of needs all across the state because everybody has their pet project that they want to see done. And then it's up to the governor and the legislature to come up with the funding to fund these projects. So no, it's not 3 people sitting around a table. Unfortunately, we wish it was that easy, but it's a big, long process of identifying the priorities and then finding the funding to get the work done.
Do people get to vote or participate in any way, or is it again just kind of left up to the professionals and their data? And
there's public processes all around. The legislators, individual legislators, usually have their town meetings, and they find out what their constituents want. And then when we get authorization to move forward with the project, then we have it's a big public process, and depending on the extent of the impacts, whether or not it's an environmental impact statement or is small enough that we just have open houses and invite people to provide us input. Here's a problem. We have this intersection with a high accident rate. Here are the various alternatives that we could look at to solve the problem, and then people provide input as to what they feel is the right solution.
Excellent. So is there any last phrase or anything that you want to say? Or?
I guess is that, again, if people have questions, feel free to ask, because that's the best way of having people satisfied with what we do.
Thank you so much, Lorena.
Thank you.
They don't understand the pressure I'm under every day in school and with my friends.
I'm supposed to take care of my family. We can't make ends meet, and things are starting to fall apart.
Could we really lose our home? I don't know what to say to the kids anymore.
They're picking on me at school, and I'm afraid.
Powerful, destructive forces are tearing families apart. Any family could be just one crisis away from disaster. No matter what challenges they face, parents can count on the trained counselors at the Boys Town National Hotline for compassionate, life-changing help. Picture your family happier, stronger, safer. Call the Boys Town National Hotline today at 800-448-3000 or visit our experts online at parenting.org. We're there 24/7 to help you resolve problems before they become a crisis.
Welcome back to Public Report, and I'm your host, Latasha Raines. We have been chatting with the Lorena Ng from the Washington State Department of Transportation. She is the regional administrator, so we got some amazing inside scoop here from her. Our second segment, we're going to be covering the popular topic of road maintenance, and I know that I wanted to know exactly what do you guys do? How do you choose to do it? So we're going to answer some of those questions here in this segment. Thank you for coming back with us.
Thank you.
So as a big agency, you probably get a lot of email from the public. And what do people seem to care about most as it pertains to road maintenance?
What they want to have a smooth drive. They don't like to have their tire fall into a pothole. They want to be able to see the striping on the road, so where their lane is going to be. And then they also want to make sure that as they get to their destination, that there's clear signage so that they could find where they want to go.
Okay. Now, when you talk about signage, do you guys have like those different reflectors? 'Cause I know I don't have like the best long range vision, and it's like once you get up there, like, oh, there's my exit. So, is there any plan for possibly working with everyone with different vision?
Well, yeah, and as we all get older, and this is a national trend, is that the size of the lettering is bigger, and as we're able to, when we get the funding or through a project to replace signs, we make sure the new signs have the higher reflectivity, as well as the larger size font, if you will. And the other thing is, and this is kind of goes against what some people like, is that we have to be really short in our messaging. Because every city wants their name on our signs. It's like, well, we can't have every little town or neighborhood because we have to have concise messaging. So that's the thing that we work toward: concise messaging, large font, and better reflectivity on the signs.
Well, I could definitely see myself missing an exit trying to read a long sentence anyway, so I appreciate that. So we have a little bit of show and tell here, and a lot of us don't get to have the hands-on of what it actually takes to do things like build the roads, and so we're going to do a little bit, take me back to chemistry and biology class here.
Well, not quite biology, but
yeah,
so one of the things I have here is, one of the things that people say is, well, I can't see the striping on the pavement. And just wanted to demonstrate the material that we use is it is pretty glittery, if you will, that we mix in with the paint and then they reflect the light from your headlights. And so this is something that they're research people that look at, okay, how can we have reflective striping that lasts a long time. Unfortunately, as you could probably see, that through time with sanding and plowing, some of this gets worn off, but this is what we start off with, and this is really helpful in making sure that people see the stripes. The other thing, we talked about smooth pavement. This is a piece of concrete, and one is, people think, oh, it's only, our concrete on our highways are really shallow, but they're not. They're pretty deep. Actually, they're deeper than this. This is just a sample, but concrete's pretty rough, and as through time, it gets rough. People are, complaining about the bumpy ride. So what we do is we grind it smooth. But yet we have grooves here to help with the water drainage and to provide traction for drivers. The other thing, this is a sample of asphalt, and
this is heavy.
This is heavy. Yeah, and it just shows it just shows the different lifts that we place as we go and resurface a particular highway or roadway. So we have that. The other thing that people complain about, and if you're going on I-5, we have concrete is made up of different panels. And as the subbase settles, then these panels, they kind of get out of whack. And what we do, and here's, whoops, I want to move this down.
Okay.
What we do is we have a dowel bar retrofit project, and so I want you to carry this.
Oh, okay. I'm like, what are you going to do? Don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
So
okay.
These are heavy. I mean, they're a lot heavier.
Heavy.
Yes. And what we do is we place these dowel bars between the panels so that the panels act as one, and they don't bump up, so, or fault up. So these are some of the things that we use that, people may not realize all the things, the science that goes into, well, it's just concrete or asphalt, how can you, what's so hard about that? And there are a lot of problems that our engineers solve.
So how often do you guys look at the striping and make sure that everything is bright? And I mean, I can imagine that's just a lot of work to keep keep track of that.
Well, we at a minimum we stripe once a year. And some of our more used highways are those that, because of the sanding and such, we may stripe, more frequently than that, maybe twice a year. But for the most part, it is once a year. And then we try, again, to use materials that last throughout the year and if not longer. So that's, it's a minimum of a year.
Okay, so while we're kind of talking about response times and obviously saying it takes a lot to make a repair, I mean, this isn't like as easy as putting a Band-Aid, over a, over a scratch here. I can think of a common call or concern might be, I have a pothole, I just got a flat tire, you guys are responsible, fix my tire. I mean, what's going on? So tell us kind of the steps when a person's calling and reporting something like that.
Well, we have maintenance folks all throughout the state, and what they do when we get a call, we ask somebody to check it out, and it depends on the extent of the problem. So if it's a pothole on a ramp that's off on the shoulder, that is off of the traveled way, we'll just let that go until we could get to it. But if it's in the middle of I-5 and if it's large enough, then we may have to do an emergency shutdown in order to repair it. We try to say, well, this could wait until, tonight, or, when the traffic is less, when we have less volumes on the roadway. Or what we could do is we need to throw what we call cold patch and throw some stuff down that, and compact it, and then come back later that night and make a more formal repair.
It seems like when we have adverse weather that the roads really get affected. What's the difference between what we use to kind of create our concrete versus maybe someone in the in the East Coast where they're used to more adverse weather? Because it seems like if there's heavy water or anything, I mean, the pavement and holes are being created, and so what's the? Well,
the science is about the same, depending, on the what we call the freeze thaw. Is what happens is that because of our climate and all the water, when that gets frozen underneath our pavement, then when it thaws out, then that's where you get the pothole. And so the other issue that we have in our state is that, studded tires, the studs create these ruts that we have to deal with, and that's why we have these grinding projects to make sure that we grind out the ruts.
So again, and a big thing, obviously, as a person is that, the response time on these kind of issues. So I know you'd said you kind of prioritize them, but is there a way that people can get a quicker response, or, what's the best way for them to go about making sure they're taken care of? Well,
it's our protocol that when we do get a call, we respond back to that call. So there is that feedback that, we explain, well, this is something that will be taken care of, this summer, or, gosh, we can only do what you call the Band-Aid fix for a few more years because we just don't have the funding that it would take to make that major resurfacing where we would grind out all of the old asphalt and then resurface it. So it just depends on the problem, but it is our protocol to give that feedback.
So, I-5 is like a very popular, ongoing, I'm sure, construction nightmare and an issue here. What are some of the steps you guys are doing just to improve it, especially going through King County?
Well, as we talked earlier, that what we do is the triage, and we look at where is it really bad. And in fact, this last fall, we did what we called an emergency panel replacement project, where we took some panels that were in the Tukwila area, and we went in and we saw cut them out, and then we removed them and replaced it with new concrete. So that's what we do is, okay, where are the panels that are so broken up that, maintenance can't just fix them. They have to be completely replaced. So we're doing that. We're doing the grinding to smooth out the ruts to get more life out of our existing concrete.
So again, these projects obviously cost now, and this is another question I know that comes up from the public is, how are you guys, paying for this? How does this affect me as a, a taxpayer?
Well, it's paid for primarily out of the gas tax, and but the gas tax not only takes care of maintenance and operations, it builds these huge projects like the 520 bridge replacement, the Alaskan Way Tunnel, and that sort of thing. So money is stretched pretty thin as far as when you think about the gas tax that we get. Another share of that gas tax goes to the cities and counties. So, when it boils down to it, we only have 8 cents per gallon that is spent on maintenance and operations and any other new projects, new preservation type projects that we have. So it is a tough issue. Funding is a big issue, and the governor and the legislature are grappling with how do we fund these types of things.
So do you guys have any strategies on this that are, in place, and again, things that we could possibly observe or participate in?
Well, when the governor came out with her budget at the beginning of this year, she asked for money for maintenance and operations, and she had some suggestions for the legislature to look at as far as raising fees and such. This is not the popular, raising fees or taxes is not popular right now, and so, the legislature is just struggling with, they understand the need is how do we fund all these important needs, not just transportation, but education and healthcare and that sort of thing. So we're just, hoping that the legislature will figure out some way of getting that little bunny out of that hat and pay for these things.
So it's really the balance of, of all the issues that we're dealing with here in the state, but with commuting and traffic being so huge, we're kind of hoping it's higher up on the chain of, of things being addressed. So, this has been a great show having you here. Is there really anything that you want to leave with us, just as far as on the inside? Kind of, we don't get this opportunity very often to be able to talk with someone on the inside about this issue. Well,
I guess the point we want to get across is there are a lot of needs, and we welcome input from people that we try, we do prioritize, and we try to we have to take care of the worst first, and sometimes it's painful that, like we mentioned, that we have to close the road in order to make these repairs. Hope people are patient as we do that, but, and we're using, ways like grinding instead of having to replace all of the concrete on I-5 that would extend the life of what we have.
Well, it's really been a pleasure talking with you. I know that everyone that's viewing this is saying, okay, I think I feel like a little more in control of what's happening, on the roads. And if you could, I just want to say thank you again for joining us. And thank you so much for being on Public Report. We addressed today the important issues of transportation, traffic, and all the construction that's happening. We had our Regional Director for Washington Department of Transportation here, and we hope to see you again on Public Report. Thank you.
You've been watching Public Report, a public affairs presentation of KTBW. The opinions expressed in this program does not necessarily reflect the views of the Trinity Broadcasting Network.